Sorry guys, I didn't expect this one to be another man, try and get rid of some of this background junk. I didn't expect this one to be another In Bed with Rooney, but as it turns out, it is. Everybody's home today, so I'm in Studio B here. And we've got some crazy, crazy old weather going on in Auckland at the moment. It's summer here, by the way, and it is storming. Windy, like all the windows are closed because the rain is coming in sideways, and the wind is almost opening the windows. It's crazy. And yes, it is summer. So you'll get days of intense heat here, and then you get days where it's still warm, but it's oh boy. I'm just bringing up at the moment. Bear with me. I'm just bringing up the Wikipedia page for this first album, self-titled. I do love a good self-titled debut album. I'm not gonna lie. You know what? I even think it's just badass that it's Led Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin 2, Led Zeppelin 3, and then Untitled, de facto Led Zeppelin 4. Okay. You know what? It would have been quite cool to just carry on that. I guess it is a bit one note, but I kind of like it. Right, I've got the Wikipedia page open, can get some info going. Let's bring that down a little bit. I did release a video this morning outlining some things. If you missed it, just real quick, I won't dwell on this. The whole, not purpose, but there was a thing that I wanted to do for this Led Zeppelin week, and that was integrate the Drumeo transcriptions and let you guys know what's available over there for free. If you're a drummer, this is completely invaluable. That you can get access to and download these Drumeo transcriptions of all these crazy, amazing Led Zeppelin songs. The link is down at the moment. So that will be up soon. I'll definitely let everybody know, but the affiliate link's not working. But we will get that back up and running, and you'll be able to jump on that. Don't delay. When it's back, don't delay. And I have got a fly that's attacking me in this room. But anyway, if you see me go crazy every now and then, it's me trying to kill it. The other thing I wanted to mention was, I did mention this on the video this morning. I had a sync issue on the screen grabs for this Led Zeppelin week. It didn't capture the audio. Did not capture the audio, which is without getting into this too much depth on it, it creates a whole weird and wonderful set of headaches for me when I'm editing, because I've got to then get the track and sync it constantly to the transcription. Anyway, that's it. Enough of that. Exilius Kazuya, Man Dazed and Confused, a heavy, heavy and dense song. One that matches even the heavy Sabbath intense ones, especially the studio version. Yes. Thank you, Brian. I agree. This is a song that I think before I was a bit more aware of Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, I had heard that, especially that intro for Dazed and Confused, that boom, 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 that marauding sort of bass, and I thought that was, in my head, I thought that might have been Black Sabbath. So I totally agree with you. JFK Drama, how you doing? Kent Mains, hello Mr. Rooney, hello to you. Skywalker Vader, hello from Canada. Big fan of Zeppelin and Rush, and of drumming. It's good to hear. Suzanne, why the tears? Come on. Finesse Muse, hello, you and Suzanne. Yeah, two of the reasons why this week is even happening. And Finesse Muse has put here, fingers crossed everything works out and the gremlins in your computer are chased away. Yes, I certainly hope so, because it's not pretty going through, and it's hard enough. I'm not an editor, so it's hard enough for me to edit in the first place, let alone editing with distractions. It's probably doubled my edit time this week, so thank God I'm on holidays at the moment, but my holiday is getting spent trying to sync audio to video. But as I said in my video that I released this morning, I can't go back and redo it because it's a first time listen. You can't do a second take first time listen. Suzanne, sorry for the trouble. It's no problem at all, Suzanne. Honestly, it's just one of those things. It seems to just happen randomly. I don't know what it is. At least it grabbed the video. I suppose, look on the bright side, at least it grabbed the video. Rich Batty. All the essential elements of what Zepp were to become are clearly heard on the debut. The riffs, the light and the shade, all were already masters of their respective instrument, and it shows. Agree. It's pretty fully formed for me. It sounds pretty fully formed straight away. Let me know if you feel like you hear a evolution, but I feel like it's pretty fully formed. I'm going to start reading from the Wikipedia entry here. Oh, and before I start, Glyn Johns. Now, what was Glyn Johns' actual role in this? Was he just engineer? Or was he... Let's go down to personnel for a second. Okay, yeah, engineering and mixing. So he engineered it and mixed it. A few people have emailed me a video of Glyn Johns talking about his... It's called the Glyn Johns technique. That's how famous it is now. Let's bring that down a little bit. And it's a miking technique. And basically, I have seen that video before. The one, yeah, as I say, a few people sent it to me. It is basically a 3 mic technique, although sometimes he would use 4 and sometimes more, just depends. But the classic Glyn Johns mic technique is a mic over the floor tom facing the snare, and then a mic above the snare facing down directly at the snare, and then a kick mic outside the kick drum or bass drum. 3 mics, and he said he would do a snare mic also, turning this into obviously a 4 mic technique, but often just leaving it at 3. And this is the mic technique I used for my latest covers. So if you've been lucky enough to see my latest covers, I think they're my best covers, best sounding and best really relaxed playing, I thought. So the latest bunch of covers I did was Roxanne, More Than a Feeling, Back in Black, Nothing Else Matters, and all 4 of those were recorded on the same mic technique and in the same session. That's using the Glyn Johns technique. So thank you for the info and the links, but yeah, I have already seen that video and I love that video. What else we got here? Dazed and Confused is so thick, it's like something right out of New Orleans circa 1930s. Yeah, that's a tune, man. That is a tune. Stephen Lewis, smash that thumbs up, boys and girls. Let's support AR. Yes. You know, this is the kind of week where where a creator feels sorry for themselves when there's technical difficulties and you try and explain to people what's going on, why things might be a little bit weird this week, or maybe they won't be weird, maybe it's fine. But if there was, put it this way, if you've been delaying subscribing, like I don't know about this guy, I don't think he knows what he's talking about. This is the week you need to subscribe, because You haven't seen the troubles I've seen this week. It's not pretty. Me Metal Mike, great Back in Black video, but we need a week of Phil Rudd, Andrew. I was so happy with that how Back in Black came out. You need to be in a certain state of mind to play that kind of stuff, like relaxed and loose, but tight. But it's really difficult to get into it. As always, me Metal Mike. If someone says, "Oh, Phil Rudd, he's easy," cool. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Getting me fired up. Every time I start talking about Phil Rudd, I get fired up. Brian, if you don't think Andrew knows what he's talking about, then you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, boom. Thank you, Brian. All right. Should we get into it? Should we get rolling? This is when you go, hell yeah. Led Zeppelin album. Led Zeppelin is the debut studio album by English rock band Led Zeppelin. It was released on the 12th of January 1969 in the United States and on the 31st of March that year in the United Kingdom by Atlantic Records. The album was recorded in September and October 1968 at Olympic Studios in London, shortly after the band's formation. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. This was shortly after the band formed? When did the band actually get together? Hit me in the comments, in the chat. It contains a mix of original material worked out in the first rehearsals, cheers, and remakes and rearrangements of contemporary blues and folk songs. The sessions took place before the group had secured a recording contract and totaled 36 hours. That is fast. That is fast. I think the original Black Sabbath album, when we did the deep dive on that, was 12 hours. I mean, that's stupid. That's just mad. But 36 hours is stupidly fast as well. Stupidly fast. They were paid for directly by Jimmy Page, the group's founder, leader, and guitarist. And so it is this Jimmy Page's band? Do you see this as Jimmy Page's band? That's an interesting concept. I haven't really thought about whose band this is. I always think of it as the Awesome Foursome. And yeah. What else we got here? It cost £1,782, which is the equivalent to £31,000 in 2021. Inflation, people. Does that make your heart sink? That level of inflation? So hold on. 69, 23 years ago? 23 years ago. 23 years, £1,782. Inflation adjusted. £31,000? Good Lord. Okay. What else we got here? They were produced by Page, who as a musician was joined by band members Robert Plant, Lee. If you did comment, thank you for that. John Paul Jones, bass and keyboards, and John Bonham, drums. Percussionist Viram Jasani appears as a guest on one track. The tracks were mixed by Page's childhood friend, Glenn Johns. Ah, okay, I didn't know that. And the iconic album cover showing the Hindenburg disaster was designed by George Hardy. Right. Should we take a breather? Let's have a look at the comments here, because they're coming in thick and fast. That's what she said. No more that's what she says, please. And just full disclosure, like my video this morning where I just wanted to pull back the curtain and tell everybody what's going on. Water at the moment. Water. It's always coffee. Almost always coffee in the reactions. It's water today. I've already had my quota of coffee. Um, had someone the other day comment, he doesn't even drink. Why is he faking drinking during these reaction videos? He doesn't even drink. He's not even drinking anything. There's nothing in there. What a strange thing to comment. JFK drum. Good times, bad times, single bass triplets. Yes, indeed. Finesse Muse. I've lost your comment. Where is it? The Glyn Johns recording technique with drums was invented by Glyn recording the first album because he was such a large sounding drummer and wanted to capture his sound. Now, we talk about musical drummers. That is a musical engineer. Too often, engineers try to make the drummer fit into what the engineer is used to. The engineer's job really, without getting ahead of myself and attacking engineers, the signal flow, the logical flow and path of the process is the engineer capturing what the drummer does, not the other way around. It's a really good point, Finesse Muse. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, now this I find difficult to believe. Zeppelin was formed in 1968. So they were formed in the year they recorded this. What? No, 6 weeks before recording. DB Classic. What? They were together for 6 weeks before they recorded this. Mad. Kent Mains, absolutely, it's Page's band. Snake in the Grass, hi Andrew, yes, Page formed the band after the breakup of the Yardbirds. Okay, now the Yardbirds, was Eric Clapton, was he involved in this? Why am I thinking Yardbirds Clapton? Gonna get some how dare you for that, but why am I thinking Clapton Yardbirds? Anyway, I'm gonna go back to Wikipedia. Led Zeppelin showed the group's fusion of blues and rock, and their take on the emerging hard rock sound was immediately commercially successful in both the UK and the US, reaching the top 10 on album charts in both countries, as well as several others. While it reached number 1 in Spain's album chart, many of the songs were longer and not well suited to be released as singles for radio play. Page was reluctant to release singles, so only Good Times, Bad Times, backed with Communication Breakdown, was released outside of the UK. However, due to exposure on album-oriented rock radio stations and growth in popularity of the band, many of the album's songs have become classic radio staples. That is something that's super interesting to me, how the songs are longer. Background. In July 1968, the English rock band The Yardbirds disbanded after 2 founder members, Keith Reef and Jim McCarty, quit the group, with a third, Chris Drazier, leaving to become a photographer shortly afterwards. The 4th member, guitarist Jimmy Page, was left with rights to the name and contractual obligations for a series of concerts in Scandinavia. Page asked seasoned session player and arranger John Paul Jones to join as bassist and hoped to recruit Terry Reid as singer and Procol Harum's B.J. Wilson as drummer. Wilson was still committed to Procol Harum and Reid declined to join, but recommended Robert Plant, who met with Page at his boathouse. He's got a boathouse? In Pangbourne, Berkshire in August to talk about music and work on new material. Page and Plant realized they had a good musical chemistry together, and Plant asked friend and former bandmate John Bonham to drum for the new group. The lineup of Page, Plant, Jones and Bonham first rehearsed on 19th of August 1968. My God. It was the day before Plant's 20th birthday. Shortly before a tour of Scandinavia as the new Yardbirds, performing some old Yardbirds material as well as new songs such as Communication Breakdown, I Can't Quit You Baby, You Shook Me, Baby, I'm Gonna Leave You, and How Many More Times. After they returned to London following the tour, Page changed the band's name to Led Zeppelin. It's a great name. It's a great name. No disrespect, Yardbirds, Led Zeppelin, even with the connotation of knowing how great Led Zeppelin are and went on to be, it's a much better name in my opinion. And it's got the weight. It's got that weight part to it. And the group entered Olympic Studios 11 p.m. on the 25th of September 1968 to record their debut album. Oh my God. First rehearsed on the night. Think about this. These guys are 20. It's 1968. They got to. There's no YouTube. They're not looking at each other's playing. They're not Google driving tracks to each other and Skyping lessons or doing Zoom chats to discuss stuff. First rehearsal 19th of August 1968, and they entered the studio on the 25th of September that year. My word. Alright, let's take a little break. Oh, there's a lot of comments coming and a lot of chat. Well, hopefully you guys can somewhat chat amongst yourselves. Do you want me to read out the chat, or do you want me to keep going through the album notes here? Because this is fascinating for me. Let me know. Anyway, I'll keep going. For now, recording. Page said that the album took only about 36 hours of studio time over a span of a few weeks to create, including mixing, adding that he knew this because of the amount charged on the studio bill. One of the primary reasons for the short recording time was that the material selected for the album had been well rehearsed and pre-arranged by the band on the Scandinavian tour. There you go. Mileage on the road. The band had not yet signed a deal, and there was no record company money to waste on excessive studio time. Page and Led Zeppelin's manager Peter Grant paid for the sessions themselves. The reported total studio cost was £1,782. The self-funding was important because it meant they could record exactly what they wanted without record company interference. So is this a case of a group that literally just does what they want? It doesn't matter what anyone else wants or what the record company wants. They're going to record whatever they want. And if money comes into it, too bad. We're still recording what we want. Love it. Absolutely love it. What else we got here? For the recordings, Page played a psychedelically painted Fender Telecaster, a gift from his friend Jeff Beck after Page recommended him to join the Yardbirds in 1965, replacing Eric Clapton on lead guitar. I knew it. I knew there was some Eric Clapton link in there. Page played the Telecaster through a Supro amplifier and used a Gibson J200, this means nothing to me, for the album's acoustic tracks. For Your Time Is Gonna Come, he used a Fender 10-string pedal steel guitar. Production. Led Zeppelin was produced by Page and engineered by Glyn Johns, who had known each other since they were teenagers in the suburb of Epsom. According to Page, most of the album was recorded live with overdubs added later. So there is overdubs, okay. Page used a distance makes depth approach to production. He used natural room ambience to enhance the reverb and recording texture on the record. Wow. Demonstrating the innovations in sound recording he had learnt during his session days. So he was a session musician before this? At the time, most producers placed microphones directly in front of the amplifiers and drums. For Led Zeppelin, Page developed the idea of placing an additional microphone some distance from the amplifier, as far as 20 feet, 6 meters, that's a long way, and then recording the balance between the two. Page became one of the first producers to record a band's ambient sound, the distance of a note's time lag from one end of the room to the other. Amazing. Amazing. Because of the live recording, some songs had plants' vocals bleed into other tracks. Page later stated that, oh, this is just so beautiful. This is music to my ears. I'll read that line again. Because of the live recording, some songs had plants' vocals bleed into the other tracks. Page later stated that this was a natural product of Plant's powerful voice, but added that the leakage sounds intentional. On You Shook Me, Page used the reverse echo technique. It involves hearing the echo before the main sound instead of after it. And it is achieved by turning the tape over and recording this echo on a spare track, and then turning the tape back over again to get the echo preceding the signal. This was one of the first albums to be released in stereo only. Prior to this, albums had been released in separate mono and stereo versions. Wow. Incredible. Incredible. Okay. I'm going to take a break from In Bed Story Time with Rooney and let's get back to some comments. Scott Bellman, hey Andrew, maybe the next time Black Sabbath has a reunion, you could play with Bill on them and show love your covers. Play with Black Sabbath? Okay, I'm down. Henrietta Skolnick, yes, it was Jimmy's band and he had creative control from track listing, album art, and more. Brandon Symington, hello Andrew. Oh, I've lost your comment. Where is it? Oh my God. What are we doing? Live chat, isn't it? I think you guys last time said, hey, you got to use live chat, not top chat. Top chat. Leader of the... Where is it? Oh, here we go. Oh. I've lost your comment. It just jumped. The chat just jumped. Rich Batty. Okay, here we go. We'll just jump in here. Rich Batty. Page seemed to initially steer the band, but he was sensible enough to realize early on that Jones and Bonham, particularly Jones, had some amazing ideas, and he welcomed all ideas and suggestions. It's an interesting one with bands. Do you make it a democracy? Everyone's just completely equal and you let everyone do their thing? Or is it a dictatorship? Most people would say, well, of course, it has to be a democracy. It doesn't always work like that. Doesn't always work like that. Not everybody is always going to be an equal songwriter. Or equally good at songwriting. I almost said talented. Talent's not a word. Equally good and experienced at songwriting. Mean Metal Mike. Jimmy Page said the Beatles was his biggest influence and George Harrison was his guitar hero growing up. Beautiful. What an influence. Brian. Bonham got those triplet bass drum hits from Carmine Apiece from Vanilla Fudge. Is that right? I think we've gone way back here. John Mark Waddell. Hey, Andrew. Hey, John Mark Waddell. Brian, I think Zepp was more musical than Sabbath, but Sabbath was way heavier. Um, I actually find them quite similar. The difference is production wise, I think just reading what I just read then about Jimmy Page, it's interesting how the two guitarists were sort of the powerful, um, the big dog in each group, Jimmy Page and Tony Iommi. I feel like Jimmy Page had a better grounding, better lead into the production role if he had had a session background. I feel like some of Tony Iommi's production choices or sounds might have been a bit misguided, might have been a bit inexperienced, possibly. This is a big call. It sounds like I'm taking big shots at Tony Iommi. He's a phenomenal guitarist. I love the band. I just feel like it wasn't as. Oh, okay, I'll just put it out there. Hate me if you want, but I just feel like the production's a bit better on the Led Zeppelin stuff. Production only. I can't say who's better or worse. Um, Brian, John Paul Jones was the glue that kept Zepp together. I've said this multiple times on videos. I feel like he's the glue. Not R. Kelly. You look great. Have you lost weight? Well, not R. Kelly. As a matter of fact, I'm a sensitive Virgo, and I enjoy movies, long walks on the park, walking along the beach, reciting a bit of poetry by moonlight. So just putting it out there. Keep going. Oh, me, Middle Mike, read both. I think you're talking about bouncing back and forth between the Wikipedia entry and the chat. Henrietta Skolnick, who I missed your comment before. Yes, they recorded how they wanted. And then again, Henrietta, Jimmy doesn't get enough credit as a producer. Yes, totally agree. Also, just while I'm paused here from reading from the Wikipedia, huge thank you to Suzanne Lash, to Finesse Muse, to Roffy, if you're out there, buddy. Anyone who was an early supporter of the channel and jumped in and said, hey, Bonham. Because a lot of that early support was for Led Zeppelin and for Bonham. Okay, should we jump back? Let's jump back to the Wikipedia. Composition, I'll say it a bit slower, right? The songs on Led Zeppelin came from the first group rehearsals, which were then refined on the Scandinavian tour. The group were familiar with the material when they entered Olympic to start recording. A reason the album was completed quickly, we've already read this. Plant participated in songwriting but was not given credit because of unexpired contractual obligations to CBS Records. He was retroactively given credit on Good Times, Bad Times, Your Time Is Gonna Come, Communication Breakdown, Babe I'm Gonna Leave You, and How Many More Times. Okay, side one, which is what we're doing. In fact, I'll leave side two out of this altogether. Side one. Good Times, Bad Times was a commercial sounding track that was considered as the group's debut single in the UK and released as such in the US. As well as showcasing the whole band and their new heavy style, it featured a catchy chorus and a variety of guitar overdubs. Guitar overdubs on Good Times, Bad Times. Have to go back and listen to that. Despite being a strong track, it was seldom performed live by Led Zeppelin. Why? One of the few occasions it was played was the Ahmet Ertegun tribute concert in 2007. Then we had Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. It was a rearrangement of a song composed by Anne Bredon in the 1950s. Page had heard the song recorded by Joan Baez. We've got an alarm going off. Can you hear that? It's a house alarm. It's not ours. Page had heard the song recorded by Joan Baez for her 1962 album Joan Baez in Concert. It was one of the first numbers that he worked on with Plant, and when the two first met at Pangorn in August 1968, Page played both the Gibson J200 acoustic and Telecaster on the track. Plant originally sang the song in a heavier style similar to other performances on the album, but was persuaded by Page to re-record it to allow some light and shade on the track. Beautiful. Just a second. That song, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, was a little bit of a shock to me, actually. It was a little bit of a shock. It showed some real range for me. You Shook Me was a blues song with lyrics by Willie Dixon and fitted in with the British blues boom that was ongoing when the album was being recorded. Jones, Plant, and Page took solos on Hammond organ, harmonica, and guitar respectively. Page put backwards echo on the track, which was then a novel production device on the call and response between the vocal and guitar towards the end. The song had been recorded by Jeff Beck for the album Truth, 1968, and Beck subsequently said he was unhappy about Led Zeppelin copying his arrangement. Wow. Yeah, I mean, You Shook Me on the channel, obviously it's going to come out tomorrow. And yeah, the call and response, I made mention of that as well, was a real feature on that. And on the previous one, Baby, I'm Gonna Leave You Too. Okay, hopefully this alarm's not coming through because this is like highly annoying. Dazed and Confused, final track of side one, was written and recorded by Jake Holmes. Who's Jake Holmes in 1967? The original album credited Page as the sole composer. Holmes sued for copyright in 2010, and an out-of-court settlement was reached the following year. Wow. The Yardbirds performed the song regularly in concert during 1968, including several radio and television sessions. Page also used the guitar solo for one of the last Yardbirds recordings. Think about it. Led Zeppelin's adaptations of Dazed and Confused used some different lyrics, while Jones and Bonham developed the arrangement to accommodate their playing styles. Okay, so it'll be really, really interesting to go back and listen to the Jake Holmes version of that. I got to get on that as soon as I can. The song was an important part of Led Zeppelin's live show throughout their early career and became a vehicle for group improv, eventually stretching in length to over 30 minutes. 30 minutes? Man, times have changed. The improvisation would sometimes include parts of another song, including the groups The Crunge and Walter's Walk, released later on Houses of the Holy and Coda respectively. Joni Mitchell's Woodstock and Scott McKenzie's San Francisco. Hold on, what do we got there? It was briefly dropped from the live set in 1975 after Page injured a finger, but was reinstated for the remainder of the tour. The last full live performance during Led Zeppelin's main career was at Earl's Court in London later that year, after which the violin bow section of the song's guitar solo was played as a standalone piece. It was revived as a complete song performance for the Ahmet Ertegun tribute concert in 2007. Okay. Whew, it's a lot of reading. It's a big article. Okay, I'm going to try and get back to these comments here. I am jumping around a little bit on the comments, so apologies for that. Henrietta Skolnick. Jimmy has said that once he heard Elvis' rendition of Baby Let's Play House when he was an early teen is when he decided he wanted to be involved in music. Wow, that's amazing. Ba, ba, ba. Today is Jonesy's 77th birthday. Henrietta, coming in with the facts. Me, Metal Mike. Before the Yardbirds, Bonham and Plant played small clubs, pubs, and churches, I believe. Okay, I was under the impression that Bonham. Actually, I was under the impression all of the members of Led Zepp were individual session musicians. But is that not the case? It seems like Jimmy Page was the big, real deal professional musician. And then these other three were just like these fiery guys that came in. Oh no, John Paul Jones, I think it said before, was also, a really established player. Um, oh yeah, Kent Mains, sorry. Page and Jones were both very experienced studio musicians in 1968. Well, I mean, you can hear that class, right? Whereas Bonham's just fire. Alarm has just stopped. I don't know if it was coming through, but my god. Henrietta. Oh, okay. No, I think I read that one. Springy. The alarm is not detracting from the chat, Andrew, but it is cancelling out my tinnitus. Win. Yes. Anytime. Springy, anytime you want to call me, and I'll just put an alarm on, and then there you go. Kent Mains. Zeppelin was one of a few bands from the era that didn't end up completely broke due to crooked management. Ouch. Okay, Peter Grant, this character, I think I've seen pictures of him. Really, really big guy. Am I thinking of the right guy? Rich Betty. Oh man, here we go again, jumping around. Rich Betty. According to Grant, America at that time took no prisoners. As a manager, you had to be tough. Grant once had a gun pulled on him by a promoter who was withholding the band's money. Damn. John Mark Waddell. That opening fill on Good Times, Bad Times at the beginning of the album has to be one of the greatest drum fills ever transcribed. Yeah, that is a burner. Absolute burner of a fill. It's a burner of a song. Really, really. I've done covers of. What are some of the ones that I've done that had reasonably fast bass drum triplets? I did Black Dog, did a cover of that, and I did a cover of When the Levee Breaks. Both of those have fast bass drum triplets at some point. I think When the Levee Breaks towards the end, Black Dog a lot at the end, but throughout has that classic Bonham bass drum triplet thing going on. But Good Times, Bad Times is faster. Those are some serious triplets. You got to remember, guys, as well, this is 1968 drum hardware, too. A 1968, I think, what was he using on the first album? Was he using the Ludwig Speed King? Um, that pedal, that pedal is not anything like what we've got now. We've got access to far better hardware. Do we have better drums now? Not necessarily. Um, but hardware has improved out of sight. I'll put that on the record. DB Classic. So many people say dropping the needle on this album in '69, that's what she said, was mind blowing. Never heard anything like it before. I could imagine. I could imagine. Oh, okay, this is a hard one. That's what she said. Elijah Huckless. Can you compare Bonham and Bill Ward since they were friends and contemporaries? Um, I think I'll have to preface any comparison between the two with a personal opinion in that I think Bonham was handled better on the recordings. Um, in terms of capturing his sound. That's just a personal opinion. I think, oh man, it's so hard for me to talk about this without things sounding like a diss. I just don't think we heard. Put it this way: I wish Bill Ward had been captured and recorded like Bonham. I look like I've gone down to 480p again. What's going on? We've lost our quality. Um, Bonham, for me, has more flow, whereas Bill Ward is a bit more jazz. Um, Bonham has a magical groove that it's quite hard to explain actually why it's so good. Um, it's hard to explain and it's hard to do. He, I think the major difference between the two of them is Bonham is just that groove monster. Both of them improvise like throughout compositions, constantly changing parts. Bill Ward probably a bit more, but yeah, but this is still coming back to a little bit of a production issue for me because often with Bill Ward I hear mics distorting and just a total loss of definition. Um, Whereas yeah, Bonham's just been recorded a bit cleaner. Actual playing wise, I think there's a. This is just personal opinion. I think there's more flow in Bonham, and he'll just sit like "Fall in the Rain's" a good example where he'll just sit on that groove, and it just rolls along, and it's just oh my god, it's just amazing, right? You just can't even imagine playing a song that good. Whereas Bill Ward is a little bit more angular. It's a little bit more jagged and harder to get into, if that makes sense. Um, Maybe I'm not making any sense here. Maybe I am. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. There are a lot more similarities. Coming back to your question, Elijah, a lot more similarities than differences, though, I think. And obviously, part of this is the era. Oh, now we're talking me, middle Mike. Bonham's Groove or Rudd's Pocket? Both of them. We always end up talking about Phil Rudd, don't we? Me, Metal Mike. I'm just going to call you Mean from now on. Um, Both got tremendous pocket. There's a lot more sort of rolling groove and feel and dynamic, I think, in Bonham's playing, whereas Phil Rudd is just like bam, 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 just that consistent and persistent metronomic beautiful feel. This is a good question. Andrew Patrick, why are you in bed? I think you meant Studio B. So I'm in bed because I've got a house full of people and I've already booked this chat and I can't kick everyone out of the house. So I need to go somewhere where there's not people running around making food and making coffees and yeah. So that's why I'm in bed. Me, Metal Mike, who's got the best pocket out of the two? Talking about Rudd and Bonham. Impossible to answer. Both geniuses. I mean, Bonham was the first, though, wasn't he? Really, was he the first to just come out of the gates with this mad pocket, where you just, you hear that first bar of when the levee breaks, and you're like, whoa, this is heavy. Um, Yeah, whereas coming back to Bill Ward, it's like a building momentum with Bill Ward. It's this building. Bill Ward for me, he's an Alvin Jones. It's just this complex, constantly changing piece of art. Whereas Bonham, yeah, he's just laying it down, and it's just Bonham and Phil Rudd. Why is the quality like this? I don't know. Bonham and Phil Rudd. It's the classic. We always come back to it. Me, Middle Mike, is that it sounds easy. Especially Phil Rudd, it sounds easy. Um, the difference is it's relatively simple, and simple is not easy. Got into a whole podcast episode on this topic with John Hammond, a great Nashville session drummer, and we got chatting about how simple is not easy. Two different things. Andrew Patrick. Okay, I thought this drum discussion was going to get freaky. Nah, man, I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. I'm stuck in bed for this one. Um, it's not my first choice of places that I'll be talking to you guys from, but hey, it's in bed with Rooney. And yes. Me, Metal Mike, Ringo was the first. Oh man, don't get me started on Ringo. Completely underrated, completely misunderstood. Um, Kent Mains, Ginger Baker didn't like anybody. No, it seems to be the way. Seems to be the way. Um, hmm, no comment. Okay. Oh, listen to this. Finesse Muse. Bonham actually idolized Ginger Baker. Wow. Was he quoted as saying that, or was that like a regular thing you'd talk about? That's interesting. It's very, very interesting. Okay, the quality is not good, but let's power on through. Remind me when we do the second side of this debut album. Remind me to uh, look at side 2 in the Wikipedia. Okay, but let's go on to artwork. Led Zeppelin's front cover, which was chosen by Page, features a black and white image of the burning Hindenburg airship, photographed by Sam Scher on 6th of May 1937 during the Hindenburg disaster. The image refers to the origin of the band's name itself, when Page Beck and the Who's Keith Moon and John Entwistle were discussing the idea of forming a group. Keith Moon joked, it would probably go over like a lead balloon. And Entwistle reportedly replied, a Led Zeppelin. The Who came up with the Led Zeppelin's name? Okay, that is freaky. The back cover features a photograph of the band taken by Drazier. The entire design of the album's sleeve was coordinated by George Hardy, with whom the band would continue to collaborate for future sleeves. Hardy himself also created the front cover illustration, rendering the famous original black and white photograph in ink using a rapidograph technical pen and a mezzotint technique. It is a fantastic image. Fantastic. I mean it's horrendous, but it's a crazy. I guess it's similar to the Rage Against the Machine album cover. When I think about it, this has just come to me now. The monk who set himself on fire on the front of the Rage Against the Machine cover. Similar, like shocking scene, but you can't look away. But it's just very, very strong imagery. Hardy recalled that he originally offered the band a design based on an old club sign in San Francisco, a multi sequential image of a Zeppelin airship up in the clouds. Page declined, but it was retained as the logo for the back cover of Led Zeppelin's first two albums and a number of early press advertisements. I think I've seen this. The first UK pressing featured the band name and the Atlantic logo in turquoise. When it was switched to the orange print later that year, the turquoise printed sleeve became a collector's item. Who's got that one? Is there anyone out there with that issue? The album cover gained further widespread attention when, at a February 1970 gig in Copenhagen, the band were billed as the Knobs as the result of a legal threat from aristocrat Ava von Zeppelin, a relative of the creator of the Zeppelin aircraft. Von Zeppelin, upon seeing the logo of the Hindenburg crashing in flames, threatened legal action over the concert taking place. What the hell? This is mad. In 2001, Greg Kot wrote in Rolling Stone that the cover of Led Zeppelin shows the Hindenburg airship in all its phallic glory going down in flames. The image did a pretty good job of encapsulating the music inside: sex, catastrophe, and things blowing up. Sometimes the critics get it right, and they have something really, really good to say. All right, back to the chat. Kent Mains. Page was trying to poach those guys, Pete Townsend, and Pete Townsend was not pleased. Wow. Rich Batty. I prefer in general the way the drums were recorded on nearly all of those heavy rock records of the 70s. It seems too clean now. Clear and sharp, not my thing. Yeah, I understand it. It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting argument. The way I record is obviously completely live, just literally throw a few mics up and record. I can't imagine recording myself any differently. I've got no interest in individual mics on drums and compression and doing all kinds of stuff to change the sound. No, I just record, and what you hear is what I've played, and that's it. Finesse Muse, good point. Let's get back to Bonham's gear on this album. Very cool to realize he was not playing his famous Ludwigs yet. Okay, I'm going to open up a different page here. John Bonham gear on the first album. Google, let's see what you got. Has anyone got an article link for this? Let's have a look. See if we can find anything. Gear, I mean, he still sounds like Bond, right? So This is why we did a gear myth bust episode, well, a while back now. But the gear myth. You could almost put Bonham on a $300 Ashton and he's still going to sound like Bonham. Why? Because he's Bonham, and it's how he hits the drums, how he tunes them, and his internal mix. Yeah, the drums are great. No dissing on the drums, but it's him. It really is him. It's a hard one to get your head around. When it comes to sound, people think um, it's gear. It's a lot more to do with the how you've been recorded and how you play the drums, in my opinion. Okay, I can't. Sorry, Finesse Music. I had a quick search and I couldn't find anything. I'm just in that quick search. Tigger at Rich Betty. You can thank close miking, sample replacement, and everyone using the same sample packs. Oh man, if I hear that Stephen Slate sample pack anymore, I'm gonna die. I don't want to hear the same samples on every drum recording. This is a little bit like auto tune. I mean, I don't want to get off onto a rant and be bagging people who use samples, because you're allowed to use whatever you want in some genres and styles. Um, that's just the way they sound. They have that sample sound. But oh man, we've lost a bit of personality there. I think. As I say, same with auto tune. You lose personality because it's not the person singing; it's a computer, right? Um, Blue Sparkle Slingerland kit, was that what he used on the first album? Interesting. Okay, with the Wikipedia entry, we're almost there, guys. So I'll finish off with we did artwork, critical reception. I'm going to skip over critical reception because who cares how it's critically received. Let's go down to legacy. The album's success and influence is widely acknowledged even by publications that were initially skeptical. In 2006, Rolling Stone commented on the originality of the music and Zeppelin's heavy style, comparing them to Cream, Jimi Hendrix, the MC5, and the Stooges, but reiterated that they had mass appeal. Led Zeppelin was cited by Stephen Thomas Erlewine as a significant turning point in the evolution of hard rock and heavy metal. According to arts and culture scholar Michael Fallon, it announced the emergence of a loud and raw new musical genre in metal, and by the BBC as a product of the 1960s, whose often bombastic style signposted a new decade. Nice. Sheldon Pierce from Consequence of Sound regarded it as Zeppelin's ode to rock's progressive metamorphosis. Yikes. And the first hard rock domino for their future accomplishments. Its orchestration delves adventurously through hard rock and heavy metal with bluesy undertones that often cause the chords to weep poignantly as if struck with malice. The album was described as a brilliant, if heavy handed blues rock offensive by popular music scholar Ronald Zelkin. Martin Popoff argued that while the album may not have been the first heavy metal record, it did feature what was likely the first metal song? Really? Communication Breakdown. I haven't got to that one yet. With its no nonsense machine gun between the numbers riff. In 2003, VH1 named Led Zeppelin the 44th greatest album of all time. I'd love to see what's above it. The same year, the album was ranked 29th on Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums of all time. That stuff doesn't matter. 20th best album of all time, 50th best album of all time, 250th best album of all time. Who cares about that stuff, right? In 2004, the album was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. Jimmy Page observed Aerosmith's Joe Perry was an incredible producer and he wrote all of these great songs. When he was cutting the first Zeppelin album, he knew what he wanted. His vision was so much more global than Jeff and Eric's. Playing guitar was just one part of the puzzle. I have to have the first four Led Zeppelin albums on me at all times. Wow, that's from Aerosmith's Joe Perry. Okay, guys, I am going to have to wrap it up. We've gone for a long, long time. That's what she said. Uh, Tigger, most people can spot auto-tuned vocals. Well, it's every vocal now. There isn't any non-auto-tuned vocals now. I feel like a lot of average music listeners, non-musicians nowadays think quantized drum tracks are real without realizing it. Don't know. Finesse Muse. Link has all the gear he used throughout his career, including pictures of his kits. Slingerland kit was played by his idol growing up, Gene Krupa. Elijah Huckles, sorry. Iommi was Bonham's best man. I hate that the Sabbath and Zepp link is always put. Not by me. That's crucial for me. Okay, guys, I am going to have to leave it here. I really, really appreciate all of the comments that are flowing in. You can comment on this video as well. Amazing to actually have a read through the Wikipedia entry. I mean, it's Wikipedia. There's no guarantees that everything's going to be 100% accurate. There's a lot of interpretation there as well. A lot of, when you start getting into quotes and this person said that, it can get a bit hairy, but good to get some info. Good to get info from you guys. Good to chat with all you guys. And I hope you have fun with the rest of this Led Zepp week. As I've said, this week is a massive thank you to two people in particular, Suzanne Lash and Finesse Muse, who have been there from the start, massive supporters of the channel, but also all the patrons, all the supporters, all of the Led Zepp fans who watch my channel, all the John Bonham fans who watch. This is for you guys. And I wish I could, thank everybody by name who has contributed and who has joined up on the Patreon, but I just can't. That's hard to go through. Sometimes you only see people's email. So I'm not going to go around saying thank you so much to John Bonham Lover 69 at Gmail. It's just in general, thank you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for watching. I will finish just with a recap on my video that I released this morning. If you missed it, the Drumeo affiliate link is down. So I've been following along with the Drumeo videos, which is an amazing resource, which you guys can get for free. When the link is back up and running, it's just amazing. If you're a drummer and you haven't tried this, you have to try it. You can loop sections, slow the song down, work on things that way. It's a total game changer. It's a total game changer for me. It's a game changer for my students. So get on it. When the link is back up and running, I'll let everybody know. Don't miss out. Go pick up that trial. And the other thing that I wanted to make clear was I have had some technical difficulties this week on the screen grabs for the songs, and I didn't record audio. So it's made my editing a nightmare. But thank God it's worth it, because it is Led Zepp week. It is worth that extra time and effort. Thank you for joining in on the chat. Drums and coffee forever. Peace. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. What have we got tomorrow? It's track 3. And it is, that's right, You Shook Me. and then we'll be finishing off with Dazed and Confused. We'll have a little break, and then we'll come back and do side 2 on the album. Have a great day, guys. Cheers. Take care.